Welcome to the Heathen Movie Channel, and welcome to another episode of our horror movie review show, I Know What You Watched Last Week, where we pick apart 3 titles and rank them in order of enjoyment. So, were you entertained this week?
Do you know what? This actually was not a bad week, considering what we normally watch. A lot of the time, I open up this show of ours and I say how dumb and awful everything was. But for the most part...
One was dumb and awful.
Yeah, okay, one was pretty bad. But I was
average,
able to enjoy...
One was good.
Most of them. I'm interested now to see what your rankings are, because I've got mine clear in my head.
Well, let's go with you first then.
Well, we haven't even said the titles yet. So we started the week... Oh, okay.
Whoa.
Started the week with a film called Lore.
From 2023.
Lore. We then moved on to Conjuring The Cult from...
2024.
Okay. And we rounded off the week with Island of the Dolls.
Island of the Dolls from 2018. There's quite a lot of Island of the Dolls movies. So I wasn't surprised when I looked them up. Yeah, so this one's from 2018.
Okay. Yeah, so for me, rankings-wise, Island of the Dolls comes in 3rd place. Then in 2nd place, I put Lore. And I gave Conjuring the Cult the gold.
I have exactly the same.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Island of the Dolls, Lore, Conjuring the Cult.
Yeah, I find this really interesting. I know we're not going to do it in this order, but I just want to quickly point out that when we're going through the streaming platform and we find these titles, it has a star rating at the top.
You can't go by it once. One person has rated the movie.
And they gave it 1 star out of 5. So I was expecting...
They clearly haven't watched all the stuff on I Know We Watched last week, have they?
Awful. So I was pleasantly surprised, and I'm talking about the Conjuring the Cult one at the moment. But, as usual, we start with our bottom pick. So we're starting this week with Island of the Dolls.
Island of the Dolls, which you were kind of a little bit preoccupied while we were watching this, right? You said that I would have to take more of an interest in this, because what were you doing? Your nails or something like that, right? Something very girly, yeah. You were doing your nails. I was being professional and watching the movie.
Well, it wasn't just me doing my nails because, I'm doing my nails. I had a job, so I had to sort them out because, certain roles don't have fake nails, do they? But yeah, I managed to pay enough attention, and I think even if I'd given it my 100% focus, it still would have had blank spots. But
all right, well, let me lead the way on this.
Take it away.
So we start off. We got 2 women's, Emily and Adriana, and they book a flight to Mexico City.
Yeah.
To meet.
For a job.
They go to meet with Emily's cousin, who's going to hook them up with, not tickets, but, a viable entry into the Island of the Dolls, because they're doing this for, like, a research or something like this, right? It's a job, yeah.
One's a photographer and one's a journalist, so they're collaborating on this.
Yeah, so Emily's cousin will arrange...
But I don't actually know what they're supposed to be investigating. Maybe there's
a lot of stuff that hasn't been, given the right amount of attention in this film. So Emily's cousin will arrange them to go to Island of the Dolls, and previously 4 people have gone missing from the Island of the Dolls, and only 1 had returned. That was back in the 1950s. So they're going to Mexico to find out about this disappearance and
so that's
everything else to do with the island. So it's one of those movies where it just goes. It goes straight away. So we open up. They're booking the flight to Mexico. Then we get about 70 seconds worth of footage of just an airplane wing out of a window. Because, we've got to fill time.
Well, you say it just goes straight to that.
Hotel.
But instantly, right at the start of the film, one of them's on a phone call or something. And I was already just so annoyed at this character. I don't even know which one it was. Because I found the 2 female characters very interchangeable.
At this time, I wasn't... annoyed yet, because I wasn't entirely sure who was speaking on the phone, even though they were showing 2 different women.
Their relationship wasn't clear. Nothing's clear, basically.
It was only when they got to the hotel and Emily and Adriana are sitting there And instantly, we're only about 3 minutes into the movie. I'd say 70 seconds of this is just an airplane wing. And they are irritating.
They are really annoying.
They're not irritating in the way that we normally say, oh my God, like that. They're kind of being regular, but they're still irritating.
Yeah, I can't describe it. You know, if you like being irritated by people, you just have to watch it yourself and you'll probably understand what we mean. Because just every time they did anything, spoke, didn't speak, it was just like, ugh.
It was the way they spoke. It was their general kind of attitude when I'm speaking.
Yeah, and they didn't seem to like change their performance much throughout the film as well, even though considering they're supposed to be partying at the beginning and then they're supposed to be scared towards the end. And it's just the same all the way through.
So they're in the hotel. Emily instantly gets the books out. She wants to get down to research.
Oh, Emily, you're always working.
Adriana's not having this. She's like, we're in Mexico. Let's go and get shit-faced, is her own words. So whoever's employing Adriana, I'll be looking back at this and saying, you're not for us. So they decide, we'll go to the club. And they meet up with Emily's cousin. So they meet up with Emily's cousin.
Who's a teacher out there or something, because he talks about students.
And they go to the club, and also in the club, he's got two friends, Luis and Eduardo. Luis is kind of wound up pretty tightly, and Eduardo's more easygoing.
Is Eduardo the Lothario one, who's, always got chicks, apparently?
I must have missed that.
Yeah, okay.
Because the cousin takes a liking to Adrian, or Adrian takes a liking to him, and
Emily's
Emily doesn't like that.
Please don't.
Please don't.
All right.
Take interest in my Mexican cousin. So they go to the club and they're sitting around and they're talking about, the two girls are talking about why they're there. I say Luis, the tightly wound one, he starts speaking in Espanol. Oh, that's another thing, by the way. When the two girls are sitting in the hotel, at the end of the conversation, when Emily agrees to go out to the club, Adrian says, "Gracias, señorita." And for some reason, they put up subtitles. Like, if you can't grasp that, then there's not really any help for you. Anyway.
Does anyone not know that?
So back to the club.
Yeah, back to the club.
She's talking about why she's there. Luis overhears this and he starts speaking in Spanish that they can't understand. He's like, you can't take them to under the dolls, stuff goes on there.
The usual horror, word of wisdom and sensible, like, don't do it, don't go there. Don't go there!
And as previously mentioned, 4 people have gone missing in the 50s. So when she mentions why they're there for, we then get the flashback to 1958. We've got 2 couples on the island of the dolls. Kind of just goes this way. They're all just milling about around a campfire.
Yeah, I also didn't really understand. I asked you even at this point. I was like, why are they even there? Because they know it's like scary or whatever. They've brought a doll as an offering to appease the spirits, but they're there. And I was like, well, why? That's not explained.
Well, you're young, dumb, and full of calm. You just want to get out there and do crazy stuff.
You were like, they're camping. And I was like, yeah, but they could have camped pretty much anywhere. They didn't have to go to a haunted island.
Well, it's the intrigue, isn't it, of a haunted island. Let's go and camp at the haunted island. So it's 1958. We hear like giggling coming from the background. Our 2 couples here giggling in the distance, things like this. So one of the guys from the couples, he's like, look, we've got these dolls. We're showing respect. Everybody show respect. And the other guy goes like, I'm going to show respect by peeing in the river. So his mate's not too happy about this, but the guy, he does go off to pee in the river, then floating doll, a splash was heard. And then we cut back to just kind of forest and screams while this guy is being offed. And that's pretty much the end of the flashback.
Well, the trio remaining kind of get spooked and they start running away. And that's the end.
So that's the end of the flashback, yeah. So then we're back at the club. We are back at the club, and finally they're getting on it. And the Mexican lads, they've got a secret drink that they hand to the ladies, and Emily in particular cannot handle this drink. But they get on the dance floor, and while they get on the dance floor, Emily sees visions.
There was some great music as well, by the way.
Black-mouthed, black-eyed girl on the dance floor and a masked man. Yeah,
I don't remember the masked man.
There's a masked man and, black goo-faced woman. There's been a lot of black goo-faced people in recent episodes that I watched last week.
It clearly shows us that this girl isn't actually there. She's some kind of apparition.
Yeah, exactly. So Emily is trashed, and she's sitting outside on the curb. She's being seen to by Louise, and Louise is like, "Oh, I'm sorry about early on in the club. I get a little bit wound up when people talk about the Island of the Dolls." And she's like, "But I've got to go there for work." And he warns her off in her drunken state, but she insists, "No, I have to go there."
And he's, under the thumb of pussy. So he's like, when she says, "Oh, will you help us?" He's like, "Yeah, okay."
No, Luis isn't really. I wouldn't say he was under the thumb of,
But he did say
Lady
that
Powers.
the whole time. He's like, "Oh, don't go, it's dangerous." And then as soon as she's like, "Oh, I have to do it for work, please help," and he's like, "Sure."
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
He doesn't. He says, "Yeah, I'll take you," but he's still not happy with it. I was watching it properly. You weren't. Remember that. You were doing your nails. You're probably filing at this point. So now they decide, we're all going to go. So it's the next morning. They've got over their hangovers. They get into their Jeep and they travel to the Island of the Dolls. So we just see that the song that was playing in the club the whole time is now playing in the car. And I don't know how long the distance was from where they are to where they're going, because they start off with this song. And when they get to their destination, the song is still playing in their car. So maybe Mexico just has one song on the radio constantly.
Or it's a very short drive.
So they get there, and Luis has a grandma. Mm-hmm. Abuela.
Yeah.
She's there, and she's like working a market. She's selling flowers and things of this
Dolls.
nature.
She's selling handmade dolls.
She has dolls. No, she's selling flowers, but she has dolls. So she's mostly selling flowers. And they get to her market stall. And she's quite pleased to meet everybody. Emily is intrigued by her knowledge of the Island of the Dolls, but Abuela is not happy.
She doesn't want to talk about it.
She doesn't want to delve into the history of the Island of the Dolls, and she definitely doesn't want, her grandson Luis going, and doesn't want the rest of his crew going. So kind of Emily's research at this point is kind of shut down because Abuela's not going to speak about it.
I always thought it was really funny because Emily's like, "Oh, wow, your English is so good." And then the grandma goes on about like, "Yeah, well, it should be. I lived in Mexico for a while." And then she complains about how, not Mexico, Texas.
Yeah.
Sorry. And she complains about how Texans pronounce Mexico.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Texas. So
Chuka, we're looking at you.
They kind of just ignore her. So she then hands up. She's like, "Oh, I've got dolls." So she hands them dolls. She's like, "This will protect you. If you're gonna go, if I can't stop you from going, at least take this. And, of course, be back before sundown." I watched a movie recently where there was a grizzled local in the bayou, and he tells him, "I'm going to take you by boat to where you want to go, this place of judgment, but you must be back by sundown." So much like that.
You don't want to be caught out in the bayou in the dark.
And the grandma says, "If you are back in time, I will bring you my delicious beef tacos." So if that's not reason enough to get back by sundown, I don't know what is. So now we're away from Abuela, and we're quickly on the boat with Diego.
Yeah.
On the boat with Diego.
I love this guy's accent when he was speaking in English.
Yeah, he had a very thick accent,
really thick,
didn't he?
And yeah, in a completely non-malicious way, I found it very entertaining. I loved it.
Yeah. So Diego decides to take them. And on the way on this boat trip, Diego is regaling them with tales about how the dolls on the island have apparently killed people who've gone there before.
And wasn't he also saying... Because basically, this whole Island of the Dolls thing, it's a real place.
Mm-hmm. It was shot there.
We've watched paranormal investigators go to this place and found out a bit of the history.
You're talking about Zachary Baggins?
Yeah, Mr. Baggins.
Bagans.
Yeah. And in this one, there was also mention of how a man was living like caretaker of the island, and a girl had drowned there, and he kind of was like treating a doll like it was her, I believe, and it's like her spirit is the major one that haunts this island. So it's to her doll that you need to make the offering. They
bring up the caretaker guy in the movie, don't they? So
we get a little flashback.
He's a real life guy, and apparently he gave them permission to use his name, film there, and everything like that. So I guess he'll just allow anything to be filmed there, because this was a real turd, this movie. So Diego the Boatman is regaling them with tales. Not the kind of thing you want to hear, I'd imagine, while you're going to the Island of the Dolls. So then Luis, they get there. And once again, even Diego is like, "Look, I'm going to give you an hour. You've only got an hour."
That doesn't seem like a very long time.
But Diego knows the history. Diego's clearly been bringing people to Island of the Dolls.
He also won't step on the land. He's like, I'll stay on my boat, I'll wait for an hour, and then I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And you would think as well with that, it's exactly the same as that other Bayou movie. Again, I was like, well, if you miss your boat back, you're screwed. There's no way you can get out of here, right? And so you would have thought with all of these people with phones, modern technology, someone would be keeping an eye on the time.
Well, they all get off the boat and they start milling about. And Luis, he's had Abuela in his ears. So he says, look, everyone take a doll for protection. And Luis isn't convinced that everyone's taking this as seriously as they should be.
We also get, is the other guy called Eduardo, we said, the taller one?
Yep.
On the boat before they even get off at the island.
Cousin, Luis, and Eduardo.
He's talking about how the chick he picked up last night was like a psychic, and that he was warning, I believe it was Emily, I don't know, the two girls were so interchangeable, but that she will see like the spirit of the dead girl or something, and to be careful. And Emily makes it very clear that she doesn't believe in any of this kind of thing. But when they go to make their offering to the doll, she's like taking it quite seriously. And Luis says, I thought you don't believe in this kind of thing. And she says, it's not a matter of believing, it's a matter of respect.
Yeah, and he's not really convinced by that either. He's not happy with that explanation. Luis is not happy with much. He's not happy with much.
Well, would you be in his situation?
So Luis, he's already said, here are your dolls. I don't feel like taking it very seriously. So what's the first thing they do? They decide to prank Luis. Remember the prank?
Yeah.
So they spent a bit of time doing not much, but just dicking around the island. They've only just got there, it seems.
With the 1 hour that they've got.
And in movie
of it.
time, this hour goes by within like 4 or 5 minutes of the movie. So as soon as Luis is pranked, he's like, you're not taking it seriously. What time is it? The sun's going to go down. So they've just realised now that the sun's about to go down. So they all start hot-tailing it back to the boat.
And they see the guy like paddling away.
Goodbye, Diego.
And they were shouting after him, and I was convinced that they were close enough that he would hear them.
No.
But apparently not.
Look, they've been warned twice now. They've been warned by Abuela and Diego.
Well, my opinion on this, it's just rude. If someone is waiting for you, you make that appointment in time.
Yeah, so Luis is pranked. Sundown's approaching. They race back. They miss the boat. Diego's gone. And wouldn't you know it, they think, let's just ring someone. No signal. There's no signal on the island. Luis, at this point, he starts to lose it. He's definitely not happy now. He's definitely not happy.
I wouldn't be happy. There's no electricity. There's nowhere to sleep. They haven't brought any equipment. Their boat is gone.
Well, more to the point, there's no tacos. He's been promised beef. Everyone's been promised these beef tacos by Abuela. They've missed that now. Personally, I love Mexican food, so I'd be pissed if I was missing out on some authentic Mexican tacos.
Again, I just feel like with the importance of this ride, someone should have set an alarm on their phone. You don't need coverage for that.
In fact,
you can set a timer.
If I knew I only had an hour, I'd be like, well, let's just go another time and let's just have Abuela's tacos today.
Yeah.
Let's guarantee the tacos.
Why don't you just stay over with Granny and then go the next morning? But this was the other thing. They were like, you've got 1 hour, and it's going to be sundown. The sun didn't go down.
I was about to say.
The sun was up the whole time.
The entire time, right? There's even a scene where it's like, right, we've got to build a campfire because it's sundown. And we've already heard previously, it's sundown. Diego's gone. So they start building the campfire. It's still broad daylight. And then instead of just sitting around the campfire for any time, it's like the movie just carries on in daylight.
Yeah.
Where is this sundown? So they're now stuck on the island. Everyone's getting mad at each other. Adriana is mad at Emily, and you can tell because she's like, at least got more time for research now.
Yeah, I didn't really know why though. I was like, it's like, it doesn't make any sense that you're getting pissed off.
We also have dialogue like, I feel like we're being watched.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
And they're like, oh, let me go see if I can find a boat. I was like, what do you mean? Let me go see. Like, you're in the middle of nowhere. No one lives here. You're gonna go see, but they do.
Much like
they actually find a boat.
Much like the unfortunate lot in 1958 as well. They also start hearing just disembodied voices coming from here, there, and everywhere to not much effect, if I'm honest. Because when you're on the Island of the Dolls in broad daylight, disembodied voices ain't doing much for me in terms of scare tactics. And the dolls, you know, you're making a movie called Island of the Dolls. How can you mess it up so bad?
Yeah.
It can't be this bad. So they build the campfire, they're hearing screams. They now also come across this like log with the initials of the 4 people from 1958. So the 4 people from 1958 who disappeared on the Island of the Dolls. They find their initials, but next to the log, because of course, over the period of 50 years, what was found next to the log must also have belonged to the person that escaped. And it has the name on it, Carmen, I believe. And Lewis is like, that is my grandmother's name. So it's pretty
very
obvious
unique name, I'm sure.
that Carmen Abuela was one of the 4 who
sure
escaped the island.
The boat that they came over to the island in was also called the Carmen.
Yeah, it was. Then, do you remember much after this? Because I'm going to go straight into what's your next recollection?
I do. So the next thing that I remember is someone's like, oh, I found this boat that I was convinced wouldn't be possible. So they found a boat. Now this is where it starts to get just bizarre, because I feel like they're just skipping major points.
Well, they've already skipped. They skipped nighttime. They skipped nighttime.
Oh, I thought it was just still the same day.
That's what I thought, but it can't, because it's sundown, and they built a campfire.
It's just a very slow.
It's just sundown. A very slow sundown.
Or very bright moon.
By the way, it is glorious sunshine. Like there was no point in this movie where I was like, oh, no way I'd ever go to Island of the Dolls. Like, here's a nice boat ride, some nice foliage, lovely streams. Yeah, there's some dolls stuck around everywhere, but I really want to go here.
Actually, I think it might even be before they get to this boat, mysterious boat, Eduardo, who was the one who was taking it least seriously. Oh yeah, that was it. Luis at one point is like, okay, you all have to put the doll down if you haven't already. Here are the offerings. Go and make an offering. So the remaining 2, Adriana and Eduardo, I think it is, they go and put their doll down. Adriana walks off. And Eduardo, for some inexplicable reason, is like, yoink, and just takes one of the dolls again. I was like, does he really want some little stuffed doll to take home or something? Or why?
That's what you do when you're a player, aren't you? You know, you just do reckless decisions. At this point as well, Eduardo he starts to tweak, and he just bangs his head multiple times up against a tree trunk and kills himself.
Yeah.
So that's the end of him.
Then they find the boat, and for some reason again they split up, and the 2 girls are there, as you said, having some beef over who knows what, and one of the girls falls in the water.
Yeah,
right?
before this, once we've got Eduardo tweaking and knocking his head against the tree, that's when we get either the first or the second viewing of the doll woman
spirit,
the
same one that was in the club.
Yep.
That Emily saw.
She's walking around in daylight.
Yep.
In glorious sunshine next to the stream.
She doesn't look very threatening either. She just looks like a girl who's been dirtied up a bit.
I just feel like I could just like put my hand on her forehead and she wouldn't get anywhere near me.
But yeah, so one of the girls
falls
in the river.
Or do they?
And then I was so confused, guys. I was like, what? So she's fallen in the river and she's struggling. Apparently, you know, she can't get out of this shallow water. And the other girl goes to help her, I suppose, and again doesn't manage to pull her out of this shallow water. But before she gets any further, Luis is there, pulling her back, and he's like, there's nothing there, there's nothing there. And that's the end of that.
So while that's happened...
So we don't actually know... Do you think she drowned? Like, what? Because we never see that character again.
Some things man is not meant to know. So after this, it's like, well, where's David the cousin? Oh, here he is, wrapped up in a tree.
Yeah, okay, that again. So, oh my god, this film's so strange.
You're starting to get irked now, aren't you?
So there's no explanation about the girl in the water. And now, all of a sudden...
David's in a tree.
Is it Emily or Adriana who's the cousin?
Emily's the cousin.
So Emily is like, where is he? And she sees... It's like something from like Midsummer or something dumb like that. She's like, sees a pile of what to me looked like hay.
And
like
this movie is better than Midsummer.
A tall haystack or something. And she's like, oh, what did he do to you? And starts pulling some of the hay away. And just with no explanation to us at all, no build-up whatsoever... Her cousin is just in the middle of this haystack, I think he's injured as well because he seems to just flop over and die. When
I reckon the doll woman's got him.
Well, I don't know because
We're allowed to guess because we don't know. We're allowed to
Luis comes out of nowhere,
guess. Frothing at the mouth.
That bit was really funny.
Yeah, that was.
It was so silly. Again, funny. Bright sunshine, and he's there like. And
he's got sunstroke.
Emily thinks that Louise has done this because she's like, "Why are you always there when something bad happens?"
Yeah.
And
too much of a coincidence.
But then within a few seconds, he's no longer frothing, and she trusts him again. So cousins off, Eduardo's off. One of the girls has just inexplicably disappeared, potentially in the river, potentially not. We're left with just Luis and Emily.
Meanwhile, back on the mainland, Abuela has noticed that no one has come back for her promised beef tacos.
Oh, the chili con carne's gone cold.
No, not chili con carne, tacos.
Oh, she called it chili con carne.
Tacos. So, again, I've got to assume that it's the next day because we've been told the sun's going down, but the sun has not gone down.
I still think it's the same day, and it's just an oversight that they just wanted to film in the daylight. Maybe the crew didn't want to be there at night either, so they're like, we've got to film it in the day and pretend it's night. Either way, she comes back with the same boat
She's
guy.
taken by Diego to the island, and she quickly meets up with Luis and Emily, and she's like, "You did not listen to me, did you? No. Now you don't get tacos." So Luis is quite apologetic, and Emily is like, "I'll be outside while you have this little family argument."
Also, did you notice Abuela did not ask about like where the others are? She's just apparently accepted that if they're not
she
right
knows.
here with
She's
she
been there
literally
before.
doesn't care. She's like, as long as I get my grandson back, fuck them all.
Well, that would be my thinking. I'd be like, I don't give a crap about these people. Where's my grandson? So she starts talking to him, and what are you going to say now?
That she puts a photo down with the offerings. She puts a photo.
Right. Kind of unimportant. Just who cares at this point? She now.
Well, it is important because that's when Louise figures out.
She now freaks out. She starts to freak out very quickly. She's not having a good time. She's only been on the island for like all of 1 minute. She stepped off Diego's boat. She's confronted Emily, confronted Luis, said her piece, been sarcastic, passive aggressive. So I say, put the photo down, and now she's like, Luis then starts to freak out. He's got to get his grandma off the island, back onto a boat.
I was going to say the photo and whatever is happening in there apparently is enough for Luis to figure out, wait, grandma, you're the fourth one. You're the survivor, the one who disappeared.
But again, when they found the initials in the log, and then they found a doll with Carmen on it, that's my grandmother's name, it's already obvious then that she's the one that's been on the island. So, complete waste of time. He finally gets onto the boat, but for some reason, I'm not entirely clear what happens here. Abuela gets on the boat.
This is so stupid.
Emily is also on the boat. Where does Luis go? Does he go somewhere else for help, or?
Okay, so they're all on the boat. There's one boat. They're all on the boat.
Oh, Luis is on the boat.
Yeah, they're all on the boat. And Luis, at first, the grandma's panicking, and she's like, "Oh, the spirit said if I ever came back, I'd get got or whatever. I'm scared. Help me, Luis. Help me." And Luis is like, "Oh, I'm going to protect you. I'm going to protect you." And he's hugging her. And the boat's not huge. It's quite a small boat.
It's barely a boat. It's more like a canoe.
And then the next thing we see, which is, I know why you asked, where the hell is Luis? Because the next thing we see is Abuela, who wasn't feeling well, is like leant back with her head into Emily's lap. And Emily clearly is like having her mind controlled by some kind of
I think the island's overtaken
spirit.
her. Yeah.
And so she puts her hand over
suffocates.
Abuela's mouth, and Abuela passes away. But obviously, even though Abuela's elderly, it still takes a considerable amount of time for someone to asphyxiate. And the whole time you're sat there like, but is Louise just like looking the other way, like do 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 do, like what is going on?
So
even the boat guy, like,
so you're telling
how
me
is nobody noticing
out
this?
of frame, Louise is on the front of the canoe, just like, I'm on the stream. I'm gonna go home to those delicious tacos now. All the while, it does like,
even though he knows his grandma's not well and he's just been like trying to take care of her, and now he looks away and he's just twiddling his thumbs whilst Emily is offing her. Yeah.
This film was a real turd.
It was so stupid and confusing.
It reminded me of my love of tacos. I'll always love tacos.
Yeah, you keep going on about them. Oh God, Johnny.
I love tacos.
You're always going on about either tits or tacos on this show.
Hey, I've got some stuff to say about tits later on in the show, so that's good. But no more taco talk.
I think the major issue with this, apart from the fact that I found two of the main
characters
just one
so
major
annoying.
Issue? Yeah, the major issue was that there was
the ineptitude of everything.
Zero build up to any of the occurrences that should have been freaky.
What about the 70-second footage of a plane wing? Did you like that? Because, you have to get the idea that they are travelling. Like, they've got the flight. Here's the flight. So, yeah, good stuff. Let's move on to a non-taco movie, Lore. Lore.
Yeah. This is another one of those kind of anthology-style movies where we get a few short stories tied in together into one.
Yeah, four friends go on a ghostly excursion into the woods.
And this was a British one.
Where they sit around a campfire and tell tales to the one and only Richard Brake. So you just mentioned this is an English movie. Once it became apparent to me very quickly that this was an English movie, if you were a previous watcher of I Know What Watched last week, you'll know that I'm no fan of English/British production. So I was about to turn it off. But then, yes, Mr. Brake showed up. I was like, right, he's going to save this movie.
And also...
And he does.
Richard Brake is Welsh, but he was an American in this, apparently.
Well, he's
an American
Welsh.
Tour guide in an English forest.
Yeah, but he moved to America when he was like 4.
Oh.
So... He's more.
Okay.
I guess he's more American, really. So anyway, yeah. So we've got 4 people around a campfire: 2 girls, 2 guys.
Bad acting again.
1 funny guy, 1 regular guy, and the 2 girls are just pretty regular as well. I would say though, they are dressed horribly. The girls, the makeup department, the wardrobe department, has not done them any favors whatsoever. They look like a couple of like 1950s male farmers or something like this. They are dressed atrociously.
Well, these 4 friends have found, have got a map, and they're supposed to be going hiking with this guy, Richard Brake. So they meet up with him in the middle of the forest, and it turns out no one else is going on this hike. But it's the evening before, so after setting out their camping equipment, they gather around the fire, and Richard says, well, I have these sticks, these little bits of wood. And if you throw one of these bits of wood in the fire, you tell a scary story, something that like haunts you specifically. Right?
Every single second he's on camera.
Great.
He's just incredible.
He is. It wasn't like, his dialogue was very uninspired writing-wise, but he sells it. He's just fascinating to watch.
Yep. Eminently watchable.
Thank God, because the 4 friends were...
As I said, I was about to turn it off, and I saw Richie Boy, and I was like, we're keeping it on.
But not all the acting other than Richard was bad in this.
No, we'll get to that
there
later on.
Decent ones.
So, as we said, all 4 of them have got to tell a story. So, like I said, it's an anthology.
Jokey Boy starts.
So let's go to the first one, which is called Shadows. And it opens up as a guy being chased into a warehouse by 2 unsavoury characters.
Seems like some kind of drug deal gone
Yeah,
wrong.
like a drug
They're
deal
like,
gone
where's
wrong.
my money? He says,
Where's my money?
Cheated.
Oi, I want my money!
Yeah. And he's in this warehouse. And as he's being sort of pursued by these 2 thugs, he starts noticing that there's a monster lurking in the shadows. And lo and behold, this monster comes and takes out one of the massive thugs.
Yeah, he's been cornered, the guy who's being chased. And he's so nice that he even tries to warn the guy who's attacking him. He's like, look, there's a bloody monster behind you.
He does
you might
seem
wanna...
to be like almost mates with these guys.
Yeah.
I guess as close friends as you can be when you're like drug dealers and stuff. Cause
When you're in the criminal underworld, friendships, they hang by a thread, don't they? If someone's missing £1, from their payday. That's it.
Fair
It's
game.
end for. You're going to take your finger. What, we're going to kneecap you. All that kind of stuff.
But, still come around for a pint.
Yeah, so the guy gets off I'm pretty sure he gets his eye torn out.
Yeah.
It's one of the first things we see.
Definitely something like
and
that.
And very quickly, the other guy comes out of nowhere. He sees his dead mate. He says, "Oh, I'm going to get you now." He finally catches up to the guy. I think his name is Dan, the guy that's being chased. So he catches up to Dan and he's like, "Look what you've done to him. Blah, blah, blah. I'm going to end
Dan's
you
like,
now."
I couldn't have done that. And instead of running away and saving his own skin, again, he's trying to help the other thug. He's like,
explaining what's happening.
There's a monster. We've got to get out of here. I swear I didn't do anything to the other guy. Like, for your safety, get out.
So they then decide, reluctantly, I'm going to just call him the drug dealer guy, decides, okay, I will give you the benefit of the doubt, and we're going to kind of team up, and we're going to see if we can find this thing. We're going to try and
find the monster and kill it, not run away. We're going to try and kill it.
But then quickly, the monster comes and also ends the other drug dealer. So now Dan is just by himself. And
actually, Dan tries to intervene. Dan tries to go and stop the monster, and the monster turns around and just like claws him in the thigh. But apart from that, he lets Dan go.
Yeah, I would say, so before we get on to the next little plot point, I thought the monster was pretty good. He was just overshown. He was just revealed too much. It was a pretty good monster.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it's practical effects. It certainly wasn't CGI. So yeah, I like the monster. A little bit overshown. So now the two drug dealers are gone. So Dan's left by himself, and he either finds his way
security guy comes out and is like, I've called the police. Security guy comes out. I've called the police.
Oh yeah, as a joke. Yeah.
Not as a joke, as like a warning.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
And then
joke warning.
Security guy takes Dan into their room, and Dan obviously is panicking. There's a monster out there. He's like, good, I'm glad you've called the cops because there's a monster and we're in danger and we need to get out. And I actually really liked Dan's acting at this point.
Well, I was about to say to you, Dan's acting is very 50-50. Because when he's still in the warehouse and he's trying to explain to one of the drug dealers, like, there's a monster here. I've just seen a monster off your friend. It's not believable because he would be so much more panicked than what he is. It's probably more of a director problem than the actor, because when he gets into the
security
guy's like little room with CCTV and all that, he manages to cry at one point. Real tears, it seems.
You can really see like the panic and emotion in the eyes at this point.
But like I say, for me, it was 50-50. He does exceptionally well. And then not so much. I don't think it's his fault though.
But either way, this security guy is like a nice older gent, who's just working this job to get by, and
he's got a photo frame of his grandkids on his desk and stuff like that.
He's taken this job so he can be closer to them, to spend time with them. Likeable guy, and he's taken notice of Dan's predicament, and he's actually being really caring of him,
understanding, yeah.
And Dan basically is like, well, you've got all this CCTV footage. Let's rewind because I want to show you or see for myself. Either way, the monster in action. So with the help of an instruction manual, the security guy does manage to work this CCTV footage. And this is where, so I was actually quite intrigued with this one, where it was going to go.
I knew. I've seen too many horrors to know exactly where this is going.
And we're watching the CCTV footage.
This is one of the most cliche things in horror.
All right.
Coming up now.
And
I'm not telling you, I'm saying it.
Lo and behold, there's no monster. And
it's Dan. Dan's been doing it all.
Is watching himself.
Everybody's watching his nose.
Watching himself off the two guys.
He's like, no,
I couldn't. I wouldn't.
I couldn't. I wouldn't do that. Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then all of a sudden, CCTV guys getting a bit wary about old Dan because he's just watching him.
Well, he's just seen him off people, hasn't he? Yeah.
I'm literally about to say, he's just seen him off two people. And Dan is not threatening to the CCTV guy, though. He's not like, because he starts to ring the police himself. It's like, look, let's just ring the police and we'll see what happens, pretty much. And all of a sudden, the monster appears behind the CCTV guy.
Security guy, yeah.
And Dan starts freaking out. He's like, no, I won't do it. And of course, what does he do? He realises that he's the monster and he has to kill himself to end everything.
Good guy though.
And that's pretty much the end.
Selfless, you know. He's like, oh, this gentleman has grandkids and he's got a reason. What am I? I'm just a loner who, I don't know, does bad drug deals or something. So he saves the security guy.
I didn't really have much sympathy for either of them, because I think the acting from a lot of it was just very, not just in this segment. I'm not talking about Dan at this point, but everyone else, like, very EastEnders, you know, BBC level trash.
It's the way it was filmed as well, though, in my opinion.
I can't be too harsh on the way it was filmed, given that we're told this was an under £100,000 production, which means it probably cost $99,999, because they don't say how much it is. This was probably, for me, second worst. No, this is the worst one.
Of the stories?
Of the stories,
Oh, God, no. We're now going to go to the second one, which was my least favourite
That
one.
one
I
is
thought
called
this one was crap.
Story of a Hidden Woman.
This one was so shit.
What we have here is a son and a mother in a new house, and there's a bit of a haunting going on. It's very Woman in Black.
Well, again, they've inherited this house.
Very English, this story. Very English.
Well, they go in, and the boy's like, why is there so much stuff here, Mum? And she goes, oh, well, Nana didn't think she'd be leaving so suddenly. But I'm like, well, what do you mean? Like, she can't take stuff with her into the grave. Like, what are they on about? Very weird. But yeah, they've moved in. They can have whatever they want. And they find some old phonograph. Yeah. That doesn't work, but yeah.
Well, you just missed out the most important thing of this. So son and mother in the house, he's like, yada, 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 what's this, what's that, the other. And she's like, oh, don't worry. Let's just go to bed. And not let's just go to separate beds. Let's go to bed together. Now, look, there's nothing untoward going on. But he's what, 12 years old?
Yeah,
11?
Too old for...
He's way too old to be sleeping in bed with his mum. He's way too old for his mum to suggest that they go to bed together as well.
But
that
also,
was
that was the
most horrific thing of this whole movie for me.
His mum was a bit daft as well, because at various points she'll say stuff like, oh, go and explore the house. And I was like, he already was exploring the house. And then at one point she's like, oh, I don't want you walking around this house in the dark. I'm like, why not? If you're comfortable living there, then why shouldn't, like... Yeah, she just seems to have a lot of rules that don't make much sense.
Well, she's a single mother with a son, just lost her mum. She needs to keep the family that she has close. Can't just be running around the house willy-nilly. You might fall down the stairs and bump your head, and next thing you're gone as well. So we have all the typical stuff, you know, the son is in the kitchen, sitting in the dark, and the mum will come in and sees him kind of like talking to no one, but then there'll be a ghostly figure appear behind him. She'll turn on the light and all of a sudden the figure appears. Then the next day she'll hear like kind of creaking coming from upstairs, and she'll look outside and her son's outside running around, so it can't be him. So she goes up there, and again we get like a ghostly apparition, another appearance of this apparition. As I said, very Woman in Black style.
Yeah, and the son at one point is like, finds a photo of a ballerina or something, and he pulls out the picture and shows it to Mum and says, look, this is Nanny, you know, Grandma or whatever. And she's like, oh, my mum wasn't a dancer. Why do you think she was a dancer? And he's like, oh, because she told me she was.
We've got the second bit that irks me now. So we've already got, you know, come to bed, son, my 12-year-old son, come to bed with me. The next bit, and this is a prime example of why I cannot do English productions. The mother is sitting down, she's watching television, and we hear the dialogue from the show that she's watching, and someone says the immortal words, are you sure you don't want a cup of tea? And I just, anytime I hear someone mention a cup of tea in English productions, it does something to me. Yeah, I can't handle it.
Clearly gets to you, doesn't it?
But just don't do it. Why is every time, oh, cup of tea, anyone? Da-da-da. Shut up. Why has it got to be it? That's the problem with it. It's always the same bloody thing. And the problem here is, story one, the most cliche thing. Oh, wait, it's me on CCTV killing people and not a monster. I've seen that 1,000 times. Then in this one, talk about blooming cups of tea. And this one, running around an old English house, which for me is anti-cinematic.
I didn't like the way it looked. I was going to say it looked just shit, and I found it really boring, and there was nothing new. And the boy at first is like, oh, I'm talking to this ghost is handing me a glass from the top shelf, and all of a sudden apparently he's changed his mind and he's now scared of the ghost.
You've also mentioned the phonograph. It kind of like starts playing itself, stuff like this, and it's attached to the grandma or the entity, whatever the entity is in the house.
Yeah, and
the
Mum keeps trying to get rid of it, but it keeps reappearing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So she gets rid of it. Next day it reappears. She burns it. It reappears. Gets rid of it again. Comes back and it starts playing. It's again that typical cliche thing. And when you're doing something like an anthology, so you have 4 different tales in this one. You've got a limited amount of time. You should be doing something kind of like new, not going straight for what has been done constantly all the time. That really annoyed me. Like, you're just doing the same thing over and over again and not doing it very well. So then we also get something else which I would normally enjoy. So we get the apparition. It's like in its ballet gear now, and it's doing like the kind of like jerky movements as it's walking about. But because of where she was on the landing in this quite nice Victorian English house, it just didn't have any effect. Like, normally I would like this kind of like ballerina jerky movement, but it was kind of like tacked on. And yeah, pretty much what is the end of this?
Mum walks in, sees the ghost thing clutching her son in bed.
Yeah, that's
and
it.
They both panic, try and get out. The door is locked. And I don't even remember how it ends, but honestly I was so glad when it was over because I was just so bored with this one.
Yeah, I'm actually going to say
like
now, simply because of the tea, the cup of tea, I'll probably say this was the worst one.
It was by far the worst.
But no, the utter cliche nature of him looking at CCTV, wait, it wasn't me, that killed it for me. That
but this was equally cliche,
me.
surely.
But that's the opening one, so set my standards somewhere. That set my standards so low already after seeing that when this one came about. Yeah, so we now go on to the third.
So those stories are both by the boys as well, by the way. And now we get on to the girls.
Isn't it just totally irrelevant who the story's by?
It is totally irrelevant. And I remember reading a review of this and someone was like, oh, I like that the girls' stories were far more like hardcore than the boys' ones. And I was like, were they?
That's probably just some sissy dude who's trying to appeal to like feminists because he doesn't get any. So it's like, oh yeah, the girls were way better. That's what that is. Yeah.
But anyway, the next one.
Don't trust feminist men; they're dangerous.
What did the next one have a name as well? Or?
Yeah, they all have a name. This one's called Cross Your Heart. And we're in a cheap hotel where a couple are there for group sex, it seems, and the guy's a complete arse.
Yeah, okay, so it took me a second to realise that they were supposed to be a married couple. Did you get that from their interactions at first?
See, I always get in people are married couples. We were watching something recently and you were like, oh yeah, it was, what's your favourite one with the doorbell camera?
Yeah, Unknown Visitor.
Unknown Visitor.
But
they
again,
were a couple.
This married couple, they were sat there and I was like, their interactions are just so not, like... These are clearly just 2 actors who've been hired and told, oh yeah, your husband and wife.
Well, the distance is there because it's alluded to that he's been beating her. So she doesn't want to be there.
But she
she's
wasn't acting like that
been beaten. Yeah, because she knows she's going to get her revenge, probably.
I wasn't buying that. But anyway.
I'm not disagreeing with you because this was the one in particular where the acting was very EastEnders. And that's about the lowest, that's the biggest... insult I could give to any kind of production. And so, while we're on the subject, while I'm the subject of EastEnders style acting, BBC style acting, there is such a thing as BBC America. And I'm just thinking to myself, surely no one across the pond, with all their options on television, is watching anything done by the BBC. Back to it.
Yeah, so... The husband is the one who wants to spice things up, and the wife is clearly much more like, oh, I don't know, we can still not do this. And he's like, what, are you mad? Of course I want to do it. And it turns out it's the wife who's found this couple that they're going to partner swap.
Goth-like couple.
Yeah. And we see, after a bit of interaction with the 4 of them, we see the goth girl, take this husband up to a hotel room.
Oh, yeah, can't wait to get down to business with you, love.
And things get a bit, I guess he thinks it's getting kinky. You know, he gets tied up, and she's kind of being a bit violent, and it starts getting a bit too much for him. You know, he's like, oh, didn't you read my email? I said no pain play, or, you know.
Yeah, the attempts at comedy in this were dire.
It was really
this particular
bad.
segment. So now I'm thinking, was this the worst one? The reason I think is this the worst one is because it could have been good. It could have been really good, but all of the stupid comedic parts put in it, the way it was acted. So you're saying, yeah, he's gone to the bedroom. She's starting to get a bit rough with him.
Yeah.
Then she gets very rough and puts like a crown of thorns onto his head,
which obviously is like causing him to bleed and stuff. And he's starting to have enough. Even the idea of some strange isn't enough to keep him there.
So the he's got his crown of thorns, and he's also branded. He gets branded with like a gets one of those, and it's at this point that he's finally decides like it wasn't the crown of thorns where he's like, I'm going to get up and leave now. It's like, oh, I've been branded and now I've got a crown of thorns as well. So I'm going to leave the room.
You're crazy.
So he starts running around the corridors, just endlessly running around the corridors.
And she's
looking
got
for
on
help.
this like twig mask, like a bunch of twigs tied together mask, and even as soon as he steps out of the hotel room to get away from her after being branded, we see other like robed twig mask people. So yeah.
When he's running around asking for help, he's like in his underwear and he's got the crown of thorns on. He's been branded, and again he's still just being like really stupid, like really just what kind of establishment is this? Just, you know, saying dumb shit like that. And the reason that I thought this could have been good, the costumes were good. So when they had this stick mask on, that was pretty cool. It's obviously an homage to the likes of the Wicker Man, movies like this. But when
I was just glad it wasn't another bunch of clowns.
When he was confronted by this cult tour in this hotel, so there are many other people walking around this hotel with this twig-like mask on. They're in robes. And when we first see them, it's a still shot. So he's like kind of run into them. We see them there. And I was like, not bad. But then they start literally coming at him like this.
Yeah.
And it was like Casper.
Like comedy zombies
yeah,
or something.
comedy zombies.
They would stand there and they'd just like put their arms up and be like, yeah, that looked really dumb.
It was really dumb. So
very scary.
He bumps into someone that works at the hotel, this lady, and he's like, you got to help me. And she's like, oh, what's been happening to you here? She takes him to a room and he finds his wife with the two goths.
This is the other thing. So he's, you know, asking for help. He's found this lady and she asks him, you know, are you here by yourself or with someone? And now at this point, I figured in the state he's in, be like, screw my wife, I don't really like her anyway. The exit sign says go that way. I'm out of here. But no, he actually decides to tell this staff that, yeah, my wife is here, so let's go and find her. And that's, as you said, they end up in this room.
Yeah, end up in the room, and she's with the two goth people, and it's then revealed that she's the one who really has enabled this tryst.
She set the whole thing up.
Yeah, she set the whole thing up.
She's part of this cult or whatever they are. Yeah, definitely.
She's become part of the cult because she's been abused by her husband.
It almost seemed like she might have been the leader, unless it was just, you know, this particular ritual that she was in charge of.
I'm pretty sure it was this one because she arrives at the hotel bar as kind of, she's still
quite meek and submissive.
Yeah, exactly,
isn't she?
meek and submissive because what's been happening to her. So she's been given the chance now to get her revenge. And the hotel employee who the guy runs into, like, she's on it too. She's led him to the room on purpose and shuts the door. As she shuts the door, they tie the guy to the bed, and they quickly, like, they take his finger, they gouge out his eye, they cut out his tongue, and they rip out his earring from his ear as well.
Yeah, so there's this whole thing. So the wife is like, oh, has he been crowned? Mm-hmm. Yes, he has. Has he got the mark? Yes, he has. Great, we can begin. And as you said, they do all these things to him in relation to, you know, a tongue that lies or whatever, or a hand that hits, and, like, you know, stuff like that. And
but all of that stuff was just completely whatever because of the just stupidity of what had come beforehand, and also just the setting. The setting wasn't good when it had his POV
It wasn't very
of
dramatic.
him on the bed looking at the cult. It was like, oh, here's a red curtain and some rickety old chair in a rundown hotel. I don't mean rundown hotel as in, oh, this is a place you wouldn't want to be. It's just
a regular.
just regular. It's almost like they've come, oh, this will do. This is a hotel. We can film here. Let's just do it here. And yeah, even when she was being serious, we're going to cut out the tongue that lies and all this. The acting again, very EastEnders, just very EastEnders, very BBC level.
And then, he's there, he's gagged, he's got no... He also didn't seem to be in quite enough pain, considering they've, ripped his tongue out and stuff.
Well, he's a bit woo, a bit way, isn't he? So he's got to be funny all the time.
The wife then goes up to him and is like, so, do you promise to never do any of that again? And is your heart completely mine? And he's like, yeah, anything, he wants to live. So he's like, yeah. And she's like, good, because we're a step ahead. And it turns out they pull back the sheet and they've cut a hole in his chest. And she grabs his heart.
It looked good, where they cut him, the effect team didn't do a bad job.
Yeah, actually, that's true. This whole film, I think the effects,
did very
considering
well.
it was a budget thing as well, they did a really good job.
But let's just say it's $100,000 movie. Under $100,000, it's a 900. It's a £99,999 movie. Otherwise, they would say, oh, it cost $20,000. To say it costs under $100,000 means it's in the 90s, definitely. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of that. And once again, I was let down because as soon as that one finished, because of the costumes of the cult, and because of the gouging his eye out, taking his finger, taking his tongue, I like all that stuff. But it was done in a way that wasn't treated with any seriousness.
Yeah, there wasn't, the tone was just not quite sinister enough.
So it wasn't sinister at all. So when it tried to be sinister, it just wasn't.
Yeah.
Not even 1%. So that was a problem. And that's another reason why I was like, is this the worst one? Because I was more disappointed by this one because it could have been good.
Each one of them could be the worst.
It could have been good. Yeah, each one of them could have been the worst, except for the last one.
No, I liked the... I mean, you said it as well. I liked the idea of this one. Again, it's not particularly new or anything, but I still enjoyed that. I wrote at the end, I was like, yeah, not bad.
They could have made a serious tone version of this and had it be effective. Because you're only talking about 15, 20 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
It could have been good, but wasn't good, much like the Shadow Woman in the House wasn't good. Do you want a cup of tea? Much like the ultra cliche, oh, that wasn't me, it can't have been me. Luckily, fourth story, Keychain Man.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I don't know why it's called Keychain Man.
It's
I would have called it Popcorn Man. So what we have here are three friends in a cinema.
Also, with this one, just straight away, when these three friends walked into the cinema, I was
Are you going to say what I'm thinking here? Go on.
Possibly. I was like, oh God, this is the worst acting so far.
Well, I've got... So, Keychain Man I've written, so the title of this segment. Then I've written three people in cinema. Straight after that, I've written acting/dialogue delivery yat-like.
Youth Action Theatre.
Youth Action Theatre.
An amateur dramatics group.
Exactly.
For teenagers.
Dram stuff.
Yeah.
And you see this all too much in English productions. People acting like this.
It was
having
way
this
over the
shitty
top.
dialogue.
Yeah, it was really over the top. I actually don't necessarily think the actors were the worst because it got
they weren't.
better as it went
It
on.
did get better.
But that first few seconds of the segment, I thought, oh dear Lord.
The first few seconds I was like, oh, this one's going to be the worst one now.
Yeah,
This one's going
100%.
to... But it did come back around. So the three friends are at a midnight showing at the cinema. And they got to the the treat stand, the concession stand. And there's a guy whose head we can't see behind...
Doing the job that I used to do.
Doing the job that I used to do, Popcorn Monkey, because he's so tall that they
Yeah.
can't see him.
And their reaction to that as well was really weird. They weren't subtle about it. They're like...
Well, again, we're talking yat here.
So dumb.
Very yat. And they get their popcorn from him or whatever, and they go into their room.
Well, you've missed out what triggers kind of a lot of it. So the manager comes out because this
Well, I was about
giant
to
of
get
a
to that.
bloke can't get them their tickets or whatever it is. He's having issues with the computer, and the manager is not happy about it.
Yeah, but before that, we see the three go into the cinema because they don't see the manager come
No,
out and
they
say,
did. They
but
see him berate.
they don't see him off is what I'm saying.
No, they see the manager berate the tall guy.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up the berating before he offs him, because it's berates him again. But yeah, the three go into the cinema room, the cinema screen, and there's one lone cinema goer there as well, an older gentleman who's irked just by the very sound of the three cinema goers having any fun whatsoever.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's
so silly. Okay, when you go to the cinema, I completely agree. When the film starts, everyone shut up. Like, don't ruin it for everybody else. But during commercials, especially if they're not even like film trailers, you're there with friends usually, or partners or whatever, and you want to have a little chat. That's completely acceptable. But this lone cinema goer, he was not having it.
No, back in the day, I would have been, right, everyone shut up during the previews because I'm going to see at least 2 or 3 things here which I want to see. Now, just say what you want, because anything in preview, there's no chance I'm ever going to go and want to see any of this. I don't even go to the cinema anymore.
When I got free tickets, because I worked at the cinema, I think the entire time I was working there, you came with me to one movie.
I think we went to like 3 maximum still.
Even I saw a few with like a couple with friends and a couple on my own, but even I was like, yeah, I can't be bothered.
And speaking of, idiots talking in the cinema, this is why you'll say, oh, why can't we just go to Kingston? I'm like, well, because it's full of chavs. And, there'll be a chav smoking in there. There'll be a chav like with his phone on. There'll be a chav with music on. So just no chavs. So I'll go to another cinema, pay like £2 extra to have no chavs and people who are respectful of the movie.
You say that, but the one you're talking about, I went to a screening with a friend, and there was a bunch of
I'm not
people talking.
I'm not talking about Richmond, if that's what you're referring to.
Oh, yeah,
no, so there you go. Never presume. Never know what's going on in my head.
Enigma.
Yeah, no, it's actually the Waterloo South Bank one where you have to pay extra, and everyone there is like a big filmy, so they'll never talk through anything really. So now you want to get back to the manager comes out and he berates the popcorn monkey.
Again, yeah. And this giant guy, he's had enough.
And he gets fired, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets fired, and he's like, do you know what? I've lost my marbles now. And he offs the manager. And I think by
drowning him in popcorn.
Was that what it was?
He puts his face in the, you get the see-through popcorn compartment, and there's this giant man. He puts the guy in the popcorn.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. If he does something else, then I don't recall.
I could have sworn he did something else, because
I think he does, but because it was so just regular, he stabs him, whatever. I thought, no, in my head, he's been drowned in popcorn.
And I think one of the 3 friends who, we've seen, one of them has gone out to, go to the toilet, get some more popcorn, whatever it is, and he sees this happen.
He witnesses it, yeah.
Yeah, so he obviously runs back into the screen and is trying to warn his friends. And
his friends think he's joking. He's like, why the hell would I joke about someone being killed out in the lobby? And the single cinema goer also doesn't enjoy him coming in here
everything
screaming
shuts
and
down
shouting
as well.
Yeah, well, it's popcorn monkey that's
turned
off all the power.
So not only has he decided he's haven't had enough of his manager, apparently he's decided he might as well just go on a spree and just get rid of everyone. So he's taken the set of keys, and he's shut the power down.
It's a good place to start your spree, because it's a midnight showing. There's only 4 people there, so you're going to get away with it, and you're going to get a little taste of what it's like to kill people. So
then get put in jail.
Well thought through. No, he's going to get away with it because he's going to wander off into the night, and because he's wearing his mask, his scary face mask,
and a name tag.
Yes, but remember what the name tag said?
No.
Oh, well, there you go then. So yeah, he's on his rampage. He decapitates the lone cinema goer. That's how we get to that. I've written in drowns boss in popcorn. We get to the bit now where our 3 main characters are running about the cinema. They're out the screen. And like, what should we do? What should we do? What should we do?
All the exits have been locked down as well. They can't get out apparently.
Now I've written the first thing that I liked about this. After the popcorn drowning, the girl of the group. So there's 2 guys and a girl who are in the group. She then offers to go and beat up the popcorn monkey, and the guy's like, you're like 5'1" and you weigh 100 pounds. What are you going to do against him? And we all know if this was Hollywood, she would be taking him down. So I like that. It was refreshing to him to say, you ain't going to do shit. to this 7-foot guy, just relax, woman.
No, I like the way that she was offed.
Yeah,
That was
again,
cool.
that's
So-
stolen.
So these, the scooper things that you use to scoop up the popcorn and put it into the buckets. Giant Mask Man has got one of these, and he like pushes it into her mouth, splits her, and then you just see, the whole jaw and body fall to the floor.
You say you like that, and yes,
Yeah.
in theory I do like that, but it's just a rip-off of My Bloody Valentine.
Well, I thought it was quite funny.
Yeah, not bad. At this point, I've also gotten Doctor Who-like production values. So again, as the BBC, Doctor Who-like production values. They're running around just the general cinema, and they still manage to make it very, English terrestrial TV.
Well, anyway, the next thing that happens in my recollection of this is that one of the guys goes into the ladies' bathroom.
Think about Demons. Think about Scream 2. Great cinema scenes.
They also have more of a budget, I think, but yeah.
You don't need a budget. You don't need the budget if you already have the location. And they do have a budget. 100 grand. £99,999 they got.
So one of the guys has gone into the ladies' bathroom, and turns out that there's another popcorn jockey, or whatever you call them, another worker of the cinema, and she's there again. This is supposed to be like comedy moment. She's like, "Oh, are you some kind of pervert? You think it's funny coming in here? Like, I'm not going out with you." And he convinces her by showing her the video. I think that the bloke you work with has just completely lost it, and he's going on a killing spree. And she's still doing her comedy thing, even when she believes him.
Well, she doesn't stop doing her comedy thing.
Yeah.
That's another problem with English productions.
And next thing you know, the murderer has come into the toilets.
Because he's a pervert as well, probably.
Yeah, exactly. And the guy is like, to his credit, he's gone out there to kind of confront him and stuff.
With cleaning in progress.
Caution, wet floor.
Plastic. Yeah, warning sign.
That's not going to do much, is it?
The guy, to his credit, he started to shine at this point. I thought he was actually quite good.
Yeah.
And he kind of half made me laugh, smirk when the killer comes in and he's holding the cleaning in progress sign. He's like, "Don't make me use this!" or something. Another cliche line, which is the way that he delivered it. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah.
Once he got rid of the other two, maybe the other two were bringing him down. Who knows?
Well, what the other guy now turns up, because obviously this wet floor caution sign isn't doing very much. So we think that guy's also had his time, but his mate shows up out of nowhere, and attacks the tall guy from behind. Again, to no avail.
Mistake.
Yeah. This tall guy is not only tall, but apparently invincible. And he ends up offing now the friend who was trying to help. But in the meantime...
We get... No, wait.
Oh?
Kills him. We get a nice head smush. So the guy gets his head smushed, gets his head stamped on.
You're right.
I always enjoy a good head smush.
That was great. Yeah.
That was. So, again,
there was a nice little build
Again, we're going back to the effects people. Did an exceptional job in this.
And, yeah, I liked the little pause where you see the friend who's not on the floor kind of like, oh crap, what is happening? And then, foot smash, stamp, dead. And the guy and the girl managed to get out whilst this is happening.
Somewhat.
And I think they managed to take the keychain off of the worker as well.
That's
don't
probably
they?
why it's called Keychain Man then. Because now they've got the keys to the cinema. Obviously, the guy who's come to the cinema hands it to the cinema worker lady. And she's like, "I don't know how to work this. I've only been here like one day or whatever." So she's useless. She can't get him out of the cinema.
Yes, but they do manage to find the right key in the end. And, the like security thing starts coming up. And he's like, "That'll do."
Yeah, the wrecker, the shutters.
And he slides out under it. And as the female worker is sliding out behind him, she then gets dragged back in. And we get a moment here, which I also kind of enjoyed, where he's like clearly deciding, like, do I save my own skin or do I go in and help her? But we don't actually get to see what his decision is. The story ends, and then we're back at the campfire, right, with the 4 friends from the beginning. And one of them's like, "So, how did it end?" And apparently the police who turned up to the scene just shot the guy. And I was like, well, that would never happen. Not in England, anyway.
Yeah, they like taser him, tell him to stop a bunch of times.
He had no weapons. They didn't know he was the killer. That like, there's no reason why that would have been the case.
But while they've got out, we then see, as I said, we're back. So they finish their stories. Mm-hmm. We get a television screen, and it's showing the news of the cinema massacre, like the next day.
Yeah, I feel like there's one more little bit before that happens, though. So, so they've told their campfire stories. They've got a big day of hiking tomorrow, so it's time to go to bed. And when they wake up, Richard Brake, their tour guide, has disappeared. He's up and left in the middle of the night. And not only that, but they're each missing one item that they brought with them. Mm-hmm. So someone's lost a phone, someone's lost a watch, but it's not just valuables, because someone has just lost their notebook, right? So then
notebook's probably more valuable than a phone.
Well, not if you're trying to sell something.
If I lost my notebook,
yeah, for you it's more valuable, but not to someone who's a thief. I don't think someone's going to break into our house, be like, oh, forget the camera, forget the equipment, I'm going to steal John's notebook.
I'd pay more to get the notebook back, so you're completely wrong there.
Oh, for God's sake. He's not trying to sell it back to them, he's trying to sell it on the black market or whatever is the idea. But he's not. I think this bit didn't make much sense, because they've already chucked this magic stick into the fire, which I thought...
Magic stick. You love magic sticks. Wands,
which I thought
Potter.
would be all it takes, because Richard Brake's always like, oh, the dead are always listening,
Is that your impression of Richard Brake?
No.
Oh, the dead are listening. Sorry, Richard.
But he's taken a possession, which I assume must be for more ritual purposes, because as you then mentioned, we see they've all gone home now, they've been robbed, there's no tour guides, they go home, and the girl who's lost her notebook, it's at her property. We see the TV screen, and it's showing the cinema
massacre
story. Yeah. And,
breaking.
And then we go to I think we get some credits, actually, for a while. And then we go to a post-credit scene.
There's a new camper.
A new group of friends have gone to this campfire, and Richard Brake's given them the magic wood. They've thrown it in the fire. And one of them starts telling a story, and it happens to that girl, the one who lost her notebook.
Yeah. Once the new guys start telling their story, the previous camp goers, they're now being affected. So the victims. So the people that we've seen tell the story, they would have affected the ones that came previously. Yeah.
Literally at the end of my notes for this, I was like, right.
Yeah, they tried to do that thing. What's even stranger is when the credits come up, we've just seen what's supposed to be a horror anthology, but it's a bit of like samba music. It's like samba credits. Hey. So that took me by surprise. Samba credits. So I've written samba credits. Wasn't funny or scary, but I didn't hate it.
No, this one was fine.
I've also written the Odeon will let you film, which is very important to us, and not just any Odeon, by the way, because you can just film in any Odeon. This was a nondescript, just nothing Odeon. Just looks like all the run-of-the-mill ones. But the one that I want to film in, Screen Run in Richmond for Heathen. It's a thing of beauty. Yeah,
I was really intrigued by that, because I just assumed it might be sort of impossible to get, at least on a smaller budget. But they had like the Odeon popcorn boxes. They had...
Maybe Odeon truly do support cinema. And if I do get to film, in my head it just has to be Richmond Odeon's Screen 1. Without that, I'm going to have to find some other like ultra special cinema screen with Moorish arches and things like this. So I've written that. So Odeon will let you film. I've also I've already previously mentioned the girls' wardrobe. Fuck me, the two girls in this movie, what they're dressed in is just, and it happens a lot these days. They'd like try to make down women so much that it's just horrible. And I've also written Richard Brake just literally blowing everybody else off the screen, which he probably would do no matter who he was on screen with, really, Hollywood stars or whatever. It's like, put Richard Brake, George Clooney. There's only one guy who can actually really act. One guy's just charming and handsome. One's a legit actor. The
great thing with Richard Brake is he's got such a, like, I think I used the word before, fascinating face. Like, he doesn't even have to be doing or saying anything really. It's just like, you just want to watch and see what's happening.
He hasn't yet had the movie, the vehicle that he deserves. Yeah. Hold that thought. Let's get on to the number one movie of the week from 2024, Conjuring the Cult. A movie.
Yeah.
So we have got a bit of a special this week because, as we've been told, Law was under 100 grand, 99,199. Island of the Dolls, I don't know what the budget was, but I've got to assume it was less than 100
I mean,
grand.
I hope for their sake that was a low budget thing.
And this one, Conjuring the Cult, cost $35,000.
$35,000, which I found out afterwards, and
which is the same price as Terrifier 1.
I mean, I'm even now I'm kind of amazed that they did that. The thing is with like Terrifier, for example, you've got an industry professional who can do all of the effects and whatnot. That's kind of, you know, part of why he did it, and he's able to, I'm assuming, call in lots of favors, or like he knows a lot of professionals of a certain caliber who want to do this with him. I don't know how these guys pulled off what they did for 35 grand.
The guy that directed this has also been in. He's got loads of credits for acting in ultra low budget horror movies, and he seems to be like a bit of everything. He's been into a bit of everything.
There were things,
and he hasn't. I think he's only
didn't make
directed
sense to
3
me,
things.
but I was still overall impressed.
Yeah, so it starts off, a guy, David, he's coming home on the ferry from work, I assume. And he gets home and he's wandering around his house and he's calling out for his daughter, Marsha. Eventually he finds her in the tub, no longer full of life. And what I liked about that was they've done it the right way as well.
Yeah,
if you're going to do that, you do it that way, apparently, not that way. Everyone's know what we're getting at there. So she's in the tub. Then we see David waking up in the middle of the night. And there's this dead thing which shuts itself into his closet, into his wardrobe. Very Grudge, very Ring style kind of thing.
There was actually, so it's super duper rare when we're watching these things that I ever feel even slightly scared or creeped out. And I'm going to say there was at least one moment in this.
There was one moment for me as well.
Was it the end of the bed moment?
I don't think so. What was the end of the bed moment?
So basically, I'm not giving away too much yet by saying this, but he suffers from, like, he falls asleep a lot and has these nightmares, and he only realizes
it does happen a lot.
Yeah, a lot. And he's like, I don't know why I keep falling asleep, but I keep doing that, having these nightmares, and then suddenly waking up. And sometimes it's like a double wake up. But there's a point where this grudgy type, I'm pretty sure it's Marsha the whole time. It's supposed to be his daughter's body. He's woken up once, and then he looks down to the end of the bed where his feet are, and you just kind of see like the top of her head. And I think it's something about like being down by the feet kind of thing. It feels so vulnerable.
It sends almost a chill from the toes then.
Like, you know, in like
neck.
horror or thriller films when they're trying to get under a door that's closing and it's just the ankles that are like trying to, that always like, I just want to pull my own feet in. So yeah, that bit creeped me out.
So we're introduced straight away to the deceased daughter, Marsha, and to the dad, David, who's kind of having sleep problems and nightmares. It's then revealed that he's in a group therapy for people who have lost loved ones. So not only has he lost his daughter, his wife and him have also split up due to the grief, I assume, because they're not at each other's throats or anything like that. And he doesn't necessarily say, "Oh, she left me." It's just, "Oh, we're just not together anymore," kind of thing.
He's kind of saying, and it's during the group therapy thing, he's like, "Oh, I know it was my fault that my daughter is gone, and my wife knows it's my fault, and that's why she left me." But then I'll get back to that later, actually. I won't say too much more because it will give away too much. But going back to this group therapy thing right at the beginning of the film, before he says his bit, we get another guy with like a massive beard talking about
Looks like he was in ZZ Top.
His acting so bad, it was funny.
I wasn't laughing.
there was also a bit where I made a note that the like counsellor, the group leader guy, who's supposed to be supporting everyone, he's bloody heartless. Because someone was like,
tough love.
"Oh, you know, my deceased wife or my deceased daughter, I can hear her crying," and he's just there like, "Dead people don't cry." So,
He's got to get it
Okay.
through to them. He's got to fix these people. So while he's in the group, there are also these 4 black-clad, kind of smug witches
yeah,
all in the group
I didn't love the way that they
that
were
are just there.
done up and that they were just there. Like, it was too obvious. Like, everyone else looks normal, and then you've got these 4 girls who look like they're about to go and shoot the cover of their goth emo punk album. I was like,
Hey, I'm all for that.
And I also
Goth,
there
emo,
was, like-
punk. You've got 3 genres there.
there was like, I guess, a leader of this foursome of witches.
Yep. Very The Craft on a budget.
And she, I actually thought, was the worst actress of the bunch. So it kind of, yeah, I didn't like. She was also like always doing like, she's like moving her head all the time, which I found really distracting.
Yeah, like I said, they're smug.
Yeah.
They're smug. So yeah, one is like, are they actually there, or is it just David that's seeing them? Because they're clearly not in a, survivor loss group, right? They're just 4 witches.
Because they're obviously clearly not related as well.
Yeah,
They're
friends. They're part of. They're a coven. All that kind of. I wasn't getting the impression that these are just 4 people strung together. I get the impression that they knew each other. I wasn't, the 4 group.
Fair enough.
They were a group. They were a true group.
I think the word I used was the witches are uninspired. I just felt like, we've got 4 witches. We're gonna dress them like this, and they're gonna act like this. I just thought it was a bit.
Okay, so they then approach David. And they tell him, why don't you come to one of our meetings, and we will put to rest, that your chapter with your daughter and the chapter with your wife. And he's kind of reluctant to the whole thing, but he ends up saying, "Oh, yeah, like, all right then, I guess so."
It's after a little while because, like, to be fair, this is a grown man, and these are 4 teenage girls or something,
like probably like 19. Something like that.
Yeah.
And also, they also give him the old, Marsha. They mention his wife's name. It's like, how...
No, daughter's name.
Or the daughter's name. Yeah, you've got Marsha and Michelle is the wife's name. So they either mention Marsha or Michelle
Marsha,
or both.
It's definitely Marsha.
And then he's
like, how do you know my daughter's name?
How do you know my daughter's name? So it kind of like ends there.
And
then
they offer to do a cleansing.
They're quite stalky, this lot. Anyway, we'll go back to the witches later. David now goes home. And it's revealed that he has a Ouija board. While he's doing the Ouija board, he's hearing creaking in the house. So he goes looking around, and again, it's Marsha, and she's kind of like bent over.
See, you know how we were talking in the previous film, and that ballerina one with this mother and son. Yeah, and you had that like weird movement thing.
Jutting
in that one,
movements.
it didn't really work.
No.
Whereas I really liked the way they did it in this one. I thought it worked really well. They had Marsha a lot of the time just kind of plodding and walking away.
Again, it is very grudging.
Yeah, but it's...
Yeah.
I'm assuming it was the actress, not like a body double or something. So I think she did a really good job of that.
Right, so yeah, so he's now noticing he's having more visions of his daughter walk around the house. He also then he starts looking through her diary, and he finds a photograph, and it's his daughter in the middle, and beside her, 2 on each side, are other people with their faces scratched out
like
in the photo. Yeah, they've been scratched out / blurred out. And it's also become apparent at this point that David's hand is bothering him.
It's his ring finger, I noticed.
Yeah, we'll find it later on, obviously, but it seems at first it's just his hand, because he just keeps looking at his hand, and yeah, it does become obvious later on that it's his finger, because he literally has a piece of string tied around his finger.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, because, okay, so this was one thing where, as you mentioned now, quite a few times throughout the film, he's like, and like, I knew straight away, because I wrote my notes early on, it's his ring finger. And yeah, we get a scene later where he's got like some string and he's kind of being led through the house via it, but I didn't really see where that led. That was one thing where I was like, that's just kind of a random thing, like it didn't seem to have anything to do with anything.
It was a supernatural thing. It took him to, well, we get to that. Look, later on, after the Ouija board scene, after he sees Marsha walk around the house, he then goes and sees one of Marsha's old friends called Casey. And he's there talking to Casey, and he's kind of like just kind of interrogating her somewhat about he brings a photo, the scratched out photo faces, says, do you know these people?
And
She
do you
doesn't
know,
recognise
like,
them.
why Marsha did what she did.
Yeah. And
the friend is saying, like, we knew she had problems. She would, like, break down, but she would never tell us. She's like, we found out that she had some, like, other friends that she was maybe more open with.
we then get another flashback once he's finished talking to Casey. Casey can't really give him any information. I think he's back at the house, or he has the flashback when he's talking to Casey. Either way, it doesn't really matter. The flashback is of him walking by or opening the door into Marsha's room, and she's just there in a pair of knickers, and he kind of lingers a little bit too long when he notices that she's topless. And it's at this point, straight away, we'll say 20 minutes into the movie, I've written, he's a peeper. So it was obvious to me straight away that he was
I wasn't
the guy that he was.
I thought this was him in, like, current time, and he was freezing to look because he's like, well, hang on, you're deceased. Why am I seeing you? I didn't see that as a flashback
overtly
thing.
I'm a peeper. I'm a dirty peeper. That was clear as day to me, and as you know, as the movie goes on, that's the truth.
Also, the girls, you know, when they're like, oh, we're gonna do this cleansing, which even though he doesn't necessarily believe in it, he's like, oh, always have a go, why not try it? And they ask for her diary.
Hang on, you're going way too far. So he's a peeper, so he's been looking at his daughter. So that was obvious to me anyway. So that kind of whole reveal thing is out for me. Well, I think it was actually supposed to be obvious. I don't think they were trying to hide it. I think it was supposed to be made obvious. So now we're back in group, and he's being told, he's telling about he's seeing Marsha all over the house and stuff like this. And again, his therapist is saying, you know, you're not seeing Marsha. It's just the way that you're reacting to your daughter's death and all this.
And also stop blaming yourself.
And also stop blaming yourself. And like I say, the witches are there at the group meeting again. They also happen to be at the meeting. And this time, they say they offer to come over this time and cleanse his house. Again, he's quite reluctant. It's like, I don't really believe in cleansing. We're like, let us do the cleansing. So he's like, whatever, just come to my house and do the cleansing. So he invites him into the house. And before they can really get down to doing much, his ex-wife comes through the door
to collect her mail.
And she sees David with these 4 19-year-old witches. And she's like, sorry to have disturbed whatever the hell it is I'm disturbing. Kind of leaves the house, and he runs after her. She starts teasing him, doesn't she? She's like, I didn't know that you were, hanging around with teens or whatever. She's like, no, they're just here. They're doing a cleansing, and I'm just letting them do it. They're part of my group. Kind of explains it away. And he goes back into the house after his ex leaves, and they say to him, we've not completed the cleansing because there's someone or something here that we don't think should be gotten rid of, or something along those lines.
No, Marsha has something that she wants to tell you and
to get across.
Yeah, so if we cleanse it, then you can't find it out. So we need to leave her be. He
gets quite mad about this. He's like, so you've come here and essentially wasted my time. They keep their cool, and they say to him, because he's like, maybe he's like, get out of the house or whatever. You're not doing what he's told me you're going to do. And they tell him, when the time comes, you'll know where to find us and bring this with you. And they hand him, I think, the diary.
They said, bring the diary and a piece of her clothing.
Yeah.
And so as
he then
said,
continues to keep having the visions.
You knew clearly that he was a dirty peeper.
Yeah, it was just obvious. Yeah.
Whereas I thought that was some weird, like, oh my God, my daughter's here.
No.
But I did think, why has he just got a pair of her panties? That's the one piece of clothing. Because they were like, we got rid of loads of her clothes, but I've got this, and it's literally just a pair of knickers. Disgusting.
Yeah, so now we now get a glimpse into David's work life. He's sitting in this kind of like blackened office. He's obviously in despair. He's depressed. But his workmate comes in and says, hey, do you want to pitch in for the office lotto? And he's like, I've only got, $2. Can you front me the rest? And his co-worker's like, sure, I know you're good for it. And he says something along the lines of, here's to dreaming. And that really resonates with me, because There's always this time when you're stuck in like a lame dead end job, and there's always just one other guy there who just doesn't seem to get that he's in a lame dead end job, and he's just quite happy with everything, and you kind of like wonder about this person, like, how are you so happy here? How are you so like? Because I touched on that a little bit in Heathen, didn't I?
Yeah, I thought
in a much
this
better
scene,
way.
like, it's completely random. Like,
I like that scene though.
It doesn't come back, but it was I enjoyed it too.
I actually laughed.
It was. It was done really well. It wasn't painful. It was
Here's
actually
to dreaming.
it was good.
So then when the guy wanders off after he's given him his money for the office lotto, Dave then gets a call from Casey, Marsha's friend, who's previously gone to go and see, and she tells him, "Oh, I just remembered something, that Marsha was going to see these 4 girls about some problem that she was having, and before she can really get everything out, she's like, oh, maybe we can meet up later and talk or something along this line, but put the phone down, but the witches are in her house." So they obviously end up, it's all off screen, it just kind of ends.
Well, we don't even, I mean, it's quite obvious, but we're not showing the witches in the usual thing. They're in some like red robes and stuff, so with the face covered.
Yeah.
So again, kind of cultish vibe.
Well, Conjuring the Cult. So we move on, and after he's been given a call by her, he's back in his house, and it's Ouija board time, and now is a bit where I think it does go slightly supernatural, because he goes towards his Ouija, and one of the witches picks up the planchette and puts the hole through.
Your head's covering, but yeah.
Puts the hole over his eye, and then he's kind of like transported into a ritual, and the 4 witches are around, and they're barely clothed, the tits are out. Yeah.
Of course you would say it like that. I was going to say they're nude and they've got a crown holding some gauze which covers them. I thought it looked really good.
It did look really good. It's previously mentioned it, I don't like it when it's just tits for tits sake or sex scene for sex scene's sake. This all completely went with the imagery and what was going on.
Yeah, but also like the way you said it again, like, their tits were out or whatever.
They were out.
Yeah, but you see the first girl completely nude, but with the other 3...
Tits out.
With the other 3, you don't really see anything. You know they're wearing exactly the same outfit, but the point is, it was completely unsexual.
That's what I was getting at. It wasn't just breast for breast's sake. It's completely suited the tone and the material.
But they didn't even
and the
show
scene
it
is
for a
what
lot
was
of the
happening.
time, is what I'm saying. Because it just, like, if it came into shot, it came into shot. If it didn't, it didn't.
In my opinion, there was a lot of breast in this. It wasn't hidden at all. So yeah, they do the ritual, and while they're doing the ritual, before they pass out, or just after they pass out, I think David gets hold of the photo, and surprise, surprise, the other 4 people in the scratch out photo were these 4 witches. Again, that was really obvious it was going to be them. So they do that.
And he's also been told somehow that, like, the diary, the one that he's been reading and ripping up and all of this stuff, seems to hold some kind of essence of Marsha. And it's the idea that, he can maybe call her back from the dead with this. But what I didn't understand is, so after these girls have flopped over and, he comes out of this Ouija vision thing, whatever it is, the place that he decides to go and perform the ritual is the building where
but we're not there yet. First, after this ritual in the house, he then, the ritual ends, and we're in the next day, and Michelle comes, his ex-wife, comes to the house again, and she notices, she's going to stay and have a beer with him and stuff like this, but then she notices the Ouija board, and she freaks out about the Ouija board. She's like, I don't like this stuff, I'm going to leave, kind of thing. And it's then we get one of the first visions which I really liked, and it's of, at this point I've already worked out what's been going on with Marsha when he lingers too long. After she leaves the house after the Ouija board frightening, is a vision of Marsha and Michelle sitting on the sofa. And Marsha,
this was good.
if I remember, Marsha kind of like has her face covered by her hair possibly, but Michelle was sitting there with this kind of evil grin on her face. And as Dave is looking on at this, Marsha then turns to Michelle, whispers in her ear, and her kind of evil grin turns into like despair and anger, and she screams, and then the vision is over. Simple vision, but executed expertly, I thought.
But again, like, Because when he was saying, oh, you know, and my wife left me because she knows it's my fault, and with that vision and stuff, it seems like not impossible that Michelle knew what was going on. But then the fact that she's still like has contact with him and says, oh, I still care about you, and like the way they interact doesn't make me think.
When he's saying that in group, oh, you know, my wife knows as well that she's off herself because of me. He could just be saying, oh, to her, oh, it's because I wasn't here for this, or I was a bad father. It's not like he's just
no, but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that it didn't seem to me at all that Michelle knew the extent of what had happened.
She doesn't. She doesn't know the truth, and that's what that vision conveys. Is that he's being shown that eventually Michelle will know the truth through this vision of Marsha whispering into her ear. After this, we now get finally where he's been playing with his finger the whole time. We now actually see him in the house, and he has string around his finger. He's being led kind of up the stairs and through the doors and all this. And yeah, he ends up in the room where he has group therapy. The building where he does group therapy, and that's where he does the ritual.
That's okay. That's not how I remember it.
How do you remember it then?
Oh, I don't remember how that string thing ends, but I remember him breaking into the building for the group therapy thing, and there was nothing supernatural in that point. He's just, for some reason, decided to do the ritual to recall his daughter in that place.
Right, but either way, they're in that building, right?
Yeah, eventually.
Okay, right. Well, okay, I thought you were going to say something different. So he's in that building. He then does the ritual.
Yeah, lights a little tea light candle, gets her diary and knickers down.
He ends up passing out, and when he reawakens, Marsha, she's back. She's alive.
Yeah.
She's alive. And they start having this kind of very strange conversation. And he's like, where did you come from? And she says, I fell from the sky. Stuff like this. And they start having the same conversations. It's not making much sense. She says she's cold, so he brings her inside to kind of warm her up and stuff like this.
Makes her a sandwich.
Tries to be, you know, fatherly, and honestly, he can't believe that she's back. So he then gets a phone and he calls Michelle. Says, you're not going to believe this, but Marsha is back. But then all he hears back is, you're not going to believe this. Marsha is back. What? What did you say? What did you say? Everything that he says is being repeated back to him by Michelle. And he kind of gets frustrated by it. And it ends with kind of like sinister laughing at the end.
Yeah.
He ends the phone call. Again, good. I've seen it before, just people having their dialogue repeated back to them. But again, he did it well. So now he's back with Marsha, and she keeps asking him, have you been reading my diary? Have you been reading my diary?
And then she's like, did you love me? Did you treat me well?
She says, I remember who I am now.
Yeah, so she clearly is getting memories slowly back.
Now we get more of the kind of like the paedophilic essence of it, because she's saying things like, was I a good girl? Did you love me? Were you nice to me? And then she's like, why have I been gone? Why did you think I was dead? And he's getting a bit worked up at this point, isn't he? And
I will say as well, I really enjoyed how they kept it very subtle. So we know, especially from what she's saying, like the peeping and stuff, we know what he's done and who he is. And yet...
Well, I did.
And yet, there's no point at which he's like... addressing
Mm-hmm.
it directly. Like, he doesn't straight out deny it at any point, but he doesn't say anything about it either. It's just kind of, he continues. Also, even like earlier in the film, I enjoyed watching him as well.
Yeah, he's good.
He did a very like low-key performance.
Definitely.
But just, I think that was what was so nice about it, was seeing sort of what's going, stuff is going on internally, so he didn't have to do much.
He was good. And
I liked Marsha as well. I thought the actress did a really good
Michelle,
job.
I thought everyone was good.
Yeah.
You said you didn't like, I didn't have a problem particularly with the lead witch or anything like that. You might have called like the weakest whatever, but she's the youngest as well, she's
I wasn't buying the sassiness of her.
I do understand that. Then once we kind of like get through all this weird dialogue, and she's asking all these questions, she then essentially starts stalking him with a knife.
Yeah.
And this is where at this point I was like, oh, they're really just gonna rush the ending, and it's just gonna be her walking around with a knife stalking him, and she's gonna stab him or whatever, because this goes on for a little while, and she goes from being kind of like quiet. It's getting a bit louder. I personally, I would have kept her quiet during the whole thing. That's just me personally.
I didn't mind it.
But luckily, he's hiding in the toilet cubicles and stuff like this while she's stalking him with the knife. But eventually, he runs outside and he sees the robed people again, takes off the hood, and there's a weird, like... It almost looks like Jason Voorhees during the later movies when he's like zombified.
Yeah, it was really weird.
I didn't get that, and also
it's
I wasn't
not explained.
And I don't feel like it fit.
It wasn't really. Yeah,
it didn't fit, and also
it
was kind of a comical makeup of the face.
It was a bit random.
It reminded me of the "Hey guys" from Goonies. It reminded me of that more than anything. And so anyway, luckily though, we get out of her just stalking him with a knife, and he ends up being kind of like tied to the floor by the rest of the 4 witches.
Well, he also
in
at one
the building.
point, like, smashes her down and stuff.
Yeah, he's being attacked. So he's been attacked for a while. That's what I'm saying, because the stalk went on for so long. I was like, he's just going to end up in a fight, and she's going to stab him eventually. But luckily, he starts defending himself, does smash her. Then he runs into the 4 witches, and they then take hold of him. They strap him down to the floor, and all of a sudden, like his torso is opening.
Yeah, there's weird things. It's like an alien, when you see the movement under the skin, and then one of the witches literally bites a hole out of his abdomen.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool. And then we get Marsha.
Marsha comes out
being
of
reborn,
his torso.
almost.
Yeah, covered in the blood, and previously she said, "I fell from the sky." As she emerges from her dad's stomach and stands upright, she says in a much more dramatic way, "I fell from the sky," and it ends.
And that's the end. So with this one, there were definitely bits that I didn't fully understand, why they were there or what they're supposed to lead to, etc. But it doesn't actually bother me. It wasn't in that way of like oversight by the filmmakers. It's just
there's a very simple way that you could have just instead of them just having be there in the group, you could have just had him leave the group, and then have the silhouette, the 4 of them in the night, and he just bumps in and they just start talking to him, rather than just, "Hey, we're here smug in the group" kind of thing. But again, like you said, it didn't bother me.
No,
it didn't bother me because...
Yeah.
No,
I was going to say, at the end of this film, I'd already said, good film, I enjoyed this. I would certainly suggest this to other people looking for a horror they haven't discovered yet. And I didn't even know at that point. It was only afterwards that I found out the budget as well, which, again, just has blown me away a bit.
Yeah, but for me, more than just the budget thing, it was just refreshing that it was adult, and there was no lame dialogue, no cheap attempts at comedy. There was no irony. Everything was at face value. It's like, we're going to do a serious tone movie, and we're gonna go for it. We're not just gonna cop out by doing a joke here, cop out by doing a joke there. They didn't do that.
And the performances were all great.
Something else I enjoy, unless I'm mistaken, the beers and the cigarettes that they've smoked throughout the movie, they've made their own beer, they've made their own cigarette packets, stuff like this. I also love the transition shots of the moon. I'm going to use that, the heathen, just shots of the moon at night time is always ultra cinematic. They use that really well, and more than decent acting.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, I certainly, this is, it's not The Exorcist or anything like that, but it was a decent attempt at an adult serious movie. And
Were you not entertained?
They did a lot well. They did a lot well. It had, and again, a lot of movies, they can't, the ending is always kind of the thing that lets it down. This time it wasn't.
It was, it was
I mean, I like the ending. But a lot of people maybe won't enjoy that ending because it's kind of not left up in the air, but it's left to your own devices as to, like, there's no explanation as to why she's come out of his stomach. So it's all, it's visual. It's visual.
I mean, there's no explanation even like how we managed to bring her back from the dead, because we know she's dead. But then she is back, and it's not just his vision.
I guess it's to do with the cult, really. The 4 witches, it must be, and the ritual. That's what the ritual's all for. Yeah. So,
which is refreshing.
One of the best movies we've seen on I Know What You Watched last week. Definitely one of the best movies. And it's from
Yeah.
and it's from 2024, so a newer movie. Because most movies that I have discovered that I do like are on here are from like 1992 or 87 or something like that, like Prom Night 3,
And this was the one that had
Amityville, It's
a
About Time.
1-star rating. I can't. I mean,
Whoever
what was
whoever the
person
geezer is
thinking?
on UK Jeff Bezos streaming is giving it 1.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I guess there's no pleasing this person. Yeah,
We've seen such like shit get more stars than this, and this was actually good.
yeah. This film was also better than all recent Hollywood horrors. Like you take all the remakes people have been doing, you take all of the more original ones that people have been doing, which people go on about. Talk to the Hand. What's it called? Talk to Me.
Talk to Me.
Right. This is a way I've watched this over that. Pretty much
God,
every
yeah.
single time I'd watch this over, Happy Death Day to you. Over
It's
that,
just so much
I'd
more
watch this over
interesting.
the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake by Netflix, which was atrocious. I'd watch this over all of that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
there are people out there who are trying to do it right. So I can only give kudos. I don't know the guy's name at the moment, but I can only give kudos to this guy who wrote this and directed it. Did a fine job.
Until next week.